Make sure everyone has reference for it later. And Dylan, I'm going to mute you really quick just to make sure I don't get background noise when recording. So if you have any questions, just make sure that you unmute yourself here in a little bit, okay? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining for the Dreamforce recap. I apologize, it's taken me a couple of weeks to get it kind of all wrapped up, coming back from Dreamforce and follow-ups and holidays and all that good stuff. It's but taken me a little longer than I anticipated. We were hoping to get it in last week. So excited for all of you to be here. Admitting a few more people in there. There we go. And this is meant to be collaborative, so if you have any questions, comments as we go along, I would love to hear from the audience as well as we're going through kind of some of the best things that happen at Dreamforce this year for insurance specifically. So again, thank you for taking time out of your day. Very much appreciate you being here. First, we're going to go through and talk about the Circle of Success. We had a great turnout. The insurance group held a Circle of Success on Thursday at Dreamforce, or maybe it was Tuesday. Anyway, I apologize, but it's kind of all running together. But we had about 40-some people in the room, all within the insurance vertical, and we talked about some different themes. So I'm going to go through that, and Alexa, who is my partner in crime here from a leader perspective, typed up several notes, so we'll make sure that we'll be sharing that out as well. There were some additional cool announcements that took place and sessions that were worth mentioning that you can go back and look at if you have Dreamforce access. I think there might be some that are publicly available too from a keynote perspective that I'll make sure that I share out with you guys as well. And then I would also love to hear your experiences. So not everyone can be everywhere. And I would love to hear from your group on the things that you really loved and or didn't like, because, you know, constructive feedback as well. This information will be going back to Salesforce, so you can feel free to share openly. A few more people in here. Looks like we got a few more coming in. So again, my name is Danielle Laffey. I'm the Principal of Insurance Solutions at Silverline. Took over the user group for this particular group here in July with Alexa. She unfortunately was not able to be here today. She had a conflict, unfortunately, that came up very last minute. So I'm running solo today, but I do have a counterpart who's helping me go through all this. I've been in the ecosystem for a long period of time, user group leader for a long time, this particular group, again, since July, and love having it go off the ground. So just a little bit about me so you know who I am. And so let's go through the Circle of Success themes that we had. I know Mike Peel was in the room. I'm not sure if there's others who are in the room, so feel free to kind of talk a little bit about what you guys heard if we didn't capture everything. The Circle of Success is a group of people that got together. We had several different round tables and had a facilitation at each table that went through and talked about the needs of the business around, and this was specifically around brokers and agents. So what business needs were you needing to engage your brokers and agents? What are the challenges that you are facing? What solutions are you guys putting in place, and what have your results been? So that particular topic was very intrigued by everybody who was doing it. So here's some of the things that we heard from a reoccurring theme perspective from table to table. Attracting agents to your company. So all agents having a choice, and you know, they're looking for ease of do business. So how do you as an insurance company attract those people to do business with you and sell yours versus others? That was one major theme that continued to come out of it as a need to engage your people. Another is journeys and moving those agents across multiple clouds through the journey experience. Onboarding them, giving them access to some of the clients. You know, there's security and things that are around that as well that were definitely items that came up from a business need perspective. And we're going to actually, from this particular topic, I'm going to actually have some solutions that are going to come out of this that we're going to start presenting in 2020. So I really loved this feedback, and it's a definite need that is needing to be addressed. And it was really cool to hear some of the people as they are talking about how they engage their brokers to move them through all of those different clouds. The self-service agent portal was a pretty big thing, topic that people were talking about. Creating a portal for people to be able to go in and find the right tools to determine what the products are that they're able to sell, to manage the policyholders and or leads that are coming in to be able to sell, looking at claims that are against those, any customer service oriented items, and just kind of extending that adoption into those particular portals, making it very easy to use. There is a particular portal that actually just came out, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the announcements, but we have a couple of people who were actually at the Circle of Success who are getting ready to use that insurance portal that came out for agents specifically. We heard this from a couple of different people, the establishing agent hierarchies. This has been an ongoing issue, and with quite a few of the insurance companies that I've heard from. So they were looking for some best practices around what's the best way to establish that hierarchy for security model purposes, and also, bringing that back into the portals and allowing people to be able to have access to that information, and making sure that you're not sharing everything, but you're sharing enough that they can actually get their job done and do it well. And then another thing that they were looking for in the current business needs specifically was around metrics and reporting. So how you set up your data so that you can report back appropriately, how you're setting up your campaigns, measuring engagement of your agents, determining, who's your highest potential people, who are the people who are selling most business, and then on the opposite side of that, who are people who are not selling enough that you can actually reach out to and give more information for, to get them to start selling more for you. And then another one, our sales executives need to know who to talk to and what about based on data within Salesforce specifically, and how do we provide all this information to data. Again, that goes back to kind of just an overall approach of making sure that the hierarchies and securities are in place, that you're able to extend as much information to your brokers as possible without giving them too much. I think that was a huge concern, and needing a lot of best practices around that. So those were a couple of things that came up as reoccurring themes. If we have anyone else on the line do you agree with these? Is there additional things that you feel like you're missing out on? I'd love to capture some of those and make sure that we talk about them in 2020, because again, we're using a lot of this content to plan what our future content is going to be in 2020. Not everybody jump first.
Danielle, this is Mike. Yeah, the hierarchy topic came up at our table quite a bit. I think probably 85% of the people that was one of the challenges that they had, and especially extending into data visibility as you extend that out into the portals. A couple other things that came up is innovative uses for the portals. So thinking about doing things where we can take leads that might be coming in through a website and get those out to the distribution channel. In some cases, those are, that's a much more friendly discussion. Other places, from a business model standpoint, we have to be concerned about channel conflict, especially if we're looking at non-captive agency models. So how do we make sure we're getting the leads to the right people and not causing challenges? The other topic that I thought was kind of interesting, we had one company that was at the table that had started using the community product to create an environment around to drive excitement around the covered asset that they insure. And so that was really targeted, yes, at the brokers and agents, but also to the end policyholders. So that's a use case, looking at the social components and looking at some of the content components that we can do through the community product that it doesn't come up very frequently.
Awesome, thank you. Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any comments on current business needs, engaging brokers and agents? Do you feel this is pretty indicative of what you guys are running into from a needs perspective? Are there additional needs that are missing on this that maybe didn't come up in the roundtable discussions that we had? that circle of success?
Well, I know we always have a problem with clean data. You know, either having crap data in Salesforce or being fed in bad data or just having out-of-date information on contacts and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was, I guess that was another thing that definitely came up is data and how to make it clean. I feel like that's always the double-edged sword there, because you have to have data cleanliness in general has definitely been a big challenge. So I'm excited to dive in and get some additional solutions for you guys and going into 2020 on how we can go through that. Let's see, I've got a couple of other people who are in the chat. Lindsay says the majority of insurance platforms seems to be focused on carriers, not agents. Do we see this changing? Kelly Utley, who is a go-to-market strategy for financial services, she wasn't able to make it today, but she did give me a slide that I'll be showing a little bit later on that talks about, you know, not just focusing on focused on agents, but we have a little bit of a roadmap of some of the additional items that are coming out in a few of the new releases. So we'll hit that here in a little bit. And then Dylan says mobile is also a strong topic. This is actually, I didn't hear anybody specifically talk about this in our group when I was there at Dreamforce specifically, but mobile definitely is very strong. All the agents are out there and making sure that all of the data and items that they're trying to get through on a regular basis from an agents and broker standpoint when they are out in the field. It came up quite a bit in some of my current clients that I actually work with. You know, the ability to not only be able to do it when you're on site with somebody, but even some offline capabilities. And if they aren't necessarily connected because they have bad Wi-Fi or something like that, you know, what are some solutions that can kind of help them continue to gather some of that information and push it back into Salesforce when they finally do get reconnected. So we'll be talking about that as well. Thank you. Anything else that you guys can think of before I move on? Of needs? Awesome. Okay, so these are kind of some of the different challenges you're faced with as you transform your business to be more engaging with brokers. That agent-customer relationship is definitely key to this one. And I'll try and summarize this a little bit, but it looks like the customer-agent interaction is more vital than the customer-firm interaction. So I think that this is saying that the agent needs to have loyalty and responsibility specifically to that customer versus the company itself. I've also heard, especially with people who are non-captive, the ability to get some of that customer information. Maybe they've met somebody who they want to sell something to that's already in your database, and actually another agency potentially owns that particular policyholder or person or lead. And how do you, you know, how do you manage that and go through that when they already are a customer of yours or a policyholder of yours, or they're with another agency and they're trying to sell a different product, and what that relationship looks like and what you're allowed to actually share out to that agent regarding the policyholder when it's not technically owned by them per se. Again, Mike, you had mentioned the data continuity, and then just in general, data has been a problem. This one specifically talks to across the different carriers and the single producer being in one spot. We did actually the producer person accounts in the new FSC for agency model. They have a producer record that attaches to accounts, so it does help with that, and we can definitely dive into that a little bit more. But there is that thought of a producer record that would go against your agent records in multiple agencies, and also, you know, if they're working for multiple of them, and then also even a policyholder, and you can bring that kind of all together into one, which has been very interesting. I don't know if anybody has taken time to look through that FSC for insurance data model, but that is one of the objects that they were looking to fix there. Differentiate beyond price, so servicing is intangible. Yes, again, this goes back to making sure that they have the right amount of data at the right time to make them to be able to do their job appropriately and be able to sell. And this is a little bit vague on this topic, so I'm not sure if the particular group that was talking and either of the mics that are on were table hosts of mine. So thank you so much for being there. I don't know if this came up particularly in either of yours or not, but I know that both the servicing of the actual broker or agent, but also the servicing of a policyholder and making sure that they're getting really good service, because again, that reflects back onto the agent and or broker as they're dealing with claims and things like that with the company. Either of the mics, did that information come up with you guys?
I think so. You know, I mean, a lot nowadays, it's much easier to compare price to price, and a lot of pricing is kind of like stabilized. So everyone's charging, in some cases, a lot of people are charging about the same rates for things. Everyone could easily compare. And so it's really not necessarily price that's a big differentiator from one firm to the other. You know, it's not like you're going to get a massive discount switching from vendor A to vendor B. But really, it's the dealing with the vendors and dealing with the agencies. You know, if you have a claim to file, if it's a giant pain in the neck to file a claim and you're really unhappy with it, you're going to switch vendors to someone else is a bit easier. You know, if I have a really bad experience filing an auto insurance claim against Geico, I'm more likely to switch to Liberty Mutual if they're not going to give me a headache and make it easy to actually do that, submit it online, keep track of my status and so forth. It also kind of goes to that's where a lot of the whole marketplace is going to the service model, which I know Salesforce kind of pushes this whole idea that it's really the servicing and the experience of interacting with a company is really a big differentiator nowadays, as opposed to in the past where it was just purely based on prices. You know, we're actually interacting more with companies nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Danielle, the prior bullet around continuity across carriers, I think the interesting things where I've seen clients over the last probably 10 years try to solve that is really looking at what's the right way to tie the transactions in the business back to the agent licensing record, right? Depending on the type of you know how you actually sell, that answer changes a lot, and you know the depth of the hierarchy can have an impact with it. But that seems to be the piece that for our clients that have been successful with dealing with that challenge. When they figure that portion out in the data model, everything else kind of follows suit, you know, because it lets us roll things up at the right level and provide visibility correctly. The other piece on the servicing side, that's something that didn't come up at the table necessarily, but is something that we see, you know, kind of in the field, if you will. Yeah. And a lot of the conversations there are around how do we take transactions that are exposed externally and streamline them so they can get as close as possible to real time. And not so much, yes, there's an operational cost reduction that happens, but there's also a tangible difference from a servicing standpoint. So I was in the process of changing my auto insurance probably 3 months ago, and I went to an aggregator site, filled out all my information. I think 2 companies came back in real time with emails in my inbox with completed quote information. I had another one that had set up, called me and tried to set up a meeting with an agent, and the rest took like a week and a half to get back, right? So those sorts of, you know, when we think about, you know, service, you know, sometimes technology being applied in places to make it faster is not just around operation cost adjustments, but it's also has a tangible impact to the applicant or the external entity, depending on the context.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, you know, I've had quite a few conversations recently around all the data that really needs to be real time versus things that, you know, can wait a couple of hours from a batch process perspective. So, you know, does something need to do when you're pushing information back and forth between systems? Because obviously not everything lives in Salesforce, right? At what point does it need to be like fully real time versus, you know, just in time, and having some batch processing? So I think that would actually be a really great topic that I'd love to dive into in next year as we're going through and getting some best practices for that. I'd love to chat with additional people around, you know, what types of data they feel as though has to be in there, right there at that exact moment versus, can it wait for an hour or two? We had quite a few different product owners who are running the programs from 3 different companies that were sitting at my table specifically, and they were all in agreement when we were sitting there chatting that, every one of their business holders says, we have to have this real time. We absolutely have to. I need it, immediately. And when you actually dig down into the details of what they really need real time versus not, most of the time, it's not something that they need immediately in those 2 minutes. It can wait for a batch job that comes around later on. But in your use case, Mike, you mentioned that you had emails that were automatically put in place versus another thing that's not coming out for a whole week. That's kind of crazy, actually, that we're waiting an entire week before they're reaching out to you. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about, the insurance space is there's so much breadth here, right? So like that example is an individual direct-to-consumer P&C example. If we're talking about a company that does, say, an indexed annuity, well, there's all sorts of reasons why the transactions can't be real time, right? You have to wait till the markets close, and so if we're dealing with a broker sale, that's different as well, right? So just there's a lot of breadth here, but for places where you do have a series of competitors that are providing drastically different experiences. Yeah, it's a topic that comes up, and it's a spot where we have the ability to change the competitive landscape.
Yeah. Looks like I've got a chat in here. Dylan says a solution for this is scover.org, tracks agents and brokers and auto updates your Salesforce if you want to know when agent joins, leaves, or moves. Interesting. Does anyone outside of Dylan use scover.org for anything? Maybe just a little nugget if you want to check things out. I'm definitely going to go check that out. And it looks like there's another one. Discover.org uses broker check data. Has anyone used that? Oh, discover.org and scover.org. There we go. So it's not scover.org, it's discover.org. He had a little typo there. Sorry about that. Well, definitely go check that out. This is a big challenge for people in general, not just necessarily just for for both brokers and customers, it says, but contacts constantly changing information. This one goes into not being able to find a good broker information on Dun and Bradstreet. You need a team to be dedicated to cleaning up your data. Again, that goes along with data continuity in general. There's brokers that kind of bounce all over the place, emails that bounce all over the place. I'm interested if anyone on the phone, are you tracking multiple emails and multiple phone numbers for your agents and brokers? And if so, are you setting some sort of primary so that you know what you're marketing to, calling to, et cetera? And how are you guys going through and updating, creating that information to make sure it stays clean? Okay. Well, I'll make sure that we dive into that one a little bit. We can take some information back on that for 2020 as we are coming out with our meeting plans to make sure that we cover that particular topic. Next one, serving up legacy data that agents need or are requesting. I assume that this comes in and around data prior to Salesforce and how much data you're actually bringing in from an old system versus what's being put into Salesforce if you're newer. And then also, how do we serve quality leads to our agents? We have a few solutions as to some quality leads perspectives and making sure that leads are qualified before they're sending them over to the agent. So hopefully we can talk about that in the solutions thing really quick. Do you have any other challenges that you feel like you're facing right now that are not covered in this particular transformation slide that anyone would like to share? before I move on? Perfect. Okay, so solutions. Obviously, the discover.org, thank you, Dylan, for that. That's a solution that's come up. How are you overcoming some of these additional challenges? My Edge, that broker relationship tool. I've never personally used that before with any of my groups, but has anyone else used My Edge at all? Anyone else familiar with it? Might be something for you to go and check out. Looks like it's got quite a bit of information that updates every night, which is nice. Journey Builder to create automated communications programs. This is probably in and around just engagement in general. I know quite a few clients who are using Journey Builder or Pardot or some other marketing automation tool to create onboarding communications programs for these people that's looking at real-time data. It determines what is being sold, what those particular key metrics are with your business, and then providing specific information based on the path that they're on from that data that's living in your org at that point in time to make sure they're getting relevant content and pushing information to people who either one are performing really well, or those others who might need a little nudge when it comes to things that maybe they haven't sold or pushed recently. And then partner community information. So again, you've got your partner communities. You've also got the Salesforce for Insurance community that just recently came out as well. But there's lots of different capabilities and tactics that's used in and around this particular portal, it looks like. We had people who talked about foster communities around covered assets use or excitement. I think, Mike, you kind of referred to that a little bit in what your table specifically was discussing. Mm-hmm. Were you going to go more into that?
No, I was agreeing with you, yes.
Yeah. So concepts on extending communities via API. My table specifically didn't talk to that, but let's see, A/B testing needs and challenges. So I assume this goes to trying to figure out how you can A/B test your particular partner sites. I've actually not known anyone who's A/B tested a partner site before in my tenure in the insurance vertical. Has anyone else, Mike? Either of the Mikes, have you seen that, or anyone else who's on?
I've seen some of that. I had a client a number of years ago that was trying to stand up a new product, a direct-to-consumer product in Arizona for the first time, and they definitely were trying to do A/B testing across all of their marketing information. And so from that standpoint, they were actually leveraging a Pardot tracking pixel embedded on the pages. But it's pretty rare that comes up.
Gotcha. We do have a little chat from Lindsay saying that that her agency actually utilizes the My Edge. So definitely something to check out if you guys haven't checked that out already. Looks like there are people who are using it and can vouch for it.
Then you want to circle up to one before that, the API bullet. That came up at my table, and I think that there were actually two of the companies that were represented of the four brought that up as a need, and it's effectively the use case is when a transaction might happen through a community, but then they also have to extend that same transaction because it might come in from another distribution partner that's large enough where they have their own community or their own portal. And so rather than having to build multiple web services or having one text, is more of a technical plumbing thing, right? Rather than having like a community that stood up for a portal for agents that are or brokers that are using the portal, and then having a completely different set of APIs. It's how do you have one set so that you can maximize your overall IT investment. So that's what the conversation was. Like I said, it's the specific needs and stuff changed depending on which company was talking about it. But that's what the topic was.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Admitting none of it in. Okay. And then what have been your results? So we didn't have a whole lot of results, and I do think that there was a reoccurring theme that, at least at my table specifically, and maybe even a few others, and we did get some feedback back from the survey that said, you know, we've had a lot of challenges, but we're not necessarily getting solutions to fix or meet those challenges. So that is something that I actually sent back to the go-to-market team at Salesforce, and I'm working with them to kind of take those particular challenges that they have and determine what particular solutions those are. We also had a few people who were at the table who had some custom solutions that they built on the Salesforce platform that I'm going to try and get to have demo next year. So definitely make sure that you stay in the loop for that one. There were quite a few who actually had custom Outlook integrations where it would actually have a Salesforce list of all of your different brokers, and it would actually give you, or almost like rank them or score them in a certain way, to be able to say this particular group is exceeding really well, or this group is not doing well at all. And you can actually bundle those together and then put them into an Outlook meeting invite to then have them come and follow up with them. So from an internal working externally with those agents was actually really cool. This particular result, it says one company offered a pilot program to serve up leads to agents, but only one agency took advantage of this opportunity. I'm wondering if there was a lead quality issues here, and that's why we had a challenge before on like, you know, how are you getting quality leads to your agents? I have a couple of clients who, I mean, that is what they do, is cultivate their particular leads and then push them out to their agencies. And it's worked really, really well, and they've got a lot of adoption from it, and it actually keeps them coming back because, you know, you're feeding them. And the more you feed them, the hungrier they get, and the more they want to stay with you versus going with someone else. And they've really teamed up and done a lot of marketing specific capabilities within the insurance companies to make sure that those leads are quality and that people are raising their hands. People who are, you know, close to ready to be buying things in order for those particular leads to be pushed up versus, you know, kind of like that buying list and sending it out type situation. I don't know if anyone else has any comments on that or not from a leads perspective. Kind of trying to keep my eye on chats coming in as well as this. So. Awesome. Well, I was really excited about having everybody at the Circle of Success. I was actually told by Salesforce it was one of the more engaging Circle of Successes that they've ever seen. So we're going to attempt to try and get some of the different world tours and things as we go around next year. And then we're also taking all of those themes back to Salesforce and working with them to make sure that we get content. If you particularly have anything that you would love to showcase that you guys have used to fix particular challenges that you've had in your business, any good solutions, that's definitely something that I'm interested in having people show. So please reach out to me and let me know that you'd be willing to participate. And I would love to have you kind of show the group some ways that you guys have met with some of these challenges and been successful. I think that, you know, just creating sharing opportunities is wonderful here. So cool. So again, we had some additional questions that just kind of came out overall. API best practices. I've had some people asking about, you know, where they should be integrating, how they should be integrating. When do you do direct integrations versus when do you do middlware? How are you pulling that information from your policy admin systems and claim systems and things down to view it versus, and how much information are you storing there, et cetera. So that was a pretty big topic that I think that we'll be diving into in 2020. Getting sales and marketing teams to work together for results rather than against each other. This is definitely, you know, across every company ever, right? That marketing hates sales and sales hates marketing, and how do you get them to work together as opposed to work or against each other? I think that there's definitely some best practices in general from Salesforce around that that I'd be happy to share out here later. Deepening Sales Cloud. I'm not sure what that particular bullet pertains to. I don't know if either of the mics had that particular item come up or not. I know we had some people who were in the room, some from FinServ and some from healthcare. We recently had a couple of people who are also in the community who've asked specifically about healthcare and health cloud. So we've sent some information on with how that's working. I know that the FSA for insurance model currently is more on the FinServ side of things as opposed to on the healthcare and payer side. But we definitely have a lot of people who are using Salesforce on the payer side. And I don't know if anyone has anything that they'd like to point out to that one specifically, but it is being able to tie in Health Cloud and some of the other ancillary partners that are out there, like a Velocity or something, is definitely big. And then let's see, insurance industry moves towards automated self-service as opposed to the agents that are no longer going to be needed. I mean, yeah, I guess that is a valid concern. You know, being able to put self-service not just for the customers, but I would also say for the agents as well. I think that as we're advancing in this particular industry, we're a little bit behind those, you know, the Googles and the Amazons of the world from a self-service perspective. But some of the portals and some of the information that's coming out to be able to self-serve is pretty large, especially in some of those other partnerships as well. When you know things like Velocity that are out there that help you be able to quote things easier and better, faster, and not necessarily have to have a person to do those rate calculations and things in there. I don't know if anyone has any commentary that they'd like to add for that, but give it a sec. Okay, so that's kind of a wrap up on what we talked about as the circle of success. Definitely appreciate the people who I had leading those particular topics. It was wonderful, and again, really enjoyed the conversation, and we're taking those things back to Salesforce and working with their go-to-market and product teams to make sure that we get the right solutions out for you so that you can know and understand how best to solve for some of the issues that we had come about. So kind of the next topic that we had are some announcements and sessions that were worth mentioning. There were a few announcements, not too terribly many that came out, but Kelly gave me the information on the insurance journey specifically that I would like to kind of talk to a little bit here. And she provided this slide. So again, forward statements, anything that I say, don't buy anything because I said something about it. Make sure that you do your due diligence before you go out and purchase something. But there's several different types of relationships to manage with the customer. You've got your policyholder, you've got your producers, you've got your employers, you've got your agents and your agencies, et cetera. So how are you managing all those different customer types? And it's becoming a little bit of a challenge. So in summer 19, you know, they really were focusing on the policyholder and the policy 360 for employees. This actually was fairly interesting. They put a slide out there. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but the policy 360 is not necessarily a screen, but it's all about the entire encompassment of what that policyholder looks like. So if your policy admin system is not on Salesforce currently, you know, how are you tying that back in and bringing your claims in and bringing underwriting in and bringing all those things in to be able to see a 360-degree view. So this is kind of internal, and then the winter that just came out, they've released the independent agent template for communities. So carriers can deploy the policy-centric experiences to third-party distributions or distributors. They've also heard that the carriers have had a fractured view of their independent agents and brokers and needed a 360 to manage those particular relationships. And so that's what's coming out in spring 2020 is they're going to be launching the 360-degree view of the agent and agencies here in the distributor 360. So We're hoping to get a small preview of that coming out before it actually comes out in total. I know that they were betaing it with 1 or 2 people now. And then also the agency management system. So we've had a lot of people who are like, there's agency management systems that are out there. Does Salesforce need to be doing this? How do we partner with them for that? They announced that they are going to be partnering with Dreamforce to do this. There's an integration tool with AMS, so they can be continuing to run their operations through that AMS, but also have that information come back into Salesforce. Earlier in the year, I know that we had quite a few people talk about Tech Canary that apply to obviously purchase them, and that also came out that they are working on an integration with that as well. So it will be going to the Applied Systems and Epic, because I know that the Tech Canary issue was a fairly large issue with some people who've been using that for years. So that's just kind of a glimpse into what's coming from the FinServ for insurance specifically. Again, you guys have kind of seen a couple of these things already. We've got the commercial lines distribution management and employer plans that are coming out from a theme perspective. They've got the flow templates. We have a few out there that are out there already. There's some product applications that are coming out in document facilitation. And then again, there's the analytics for agencies and next best actions. We actually just had a few of the Einstein analytics for agents that just came out recently, and I'm going to show you here that was highlighted in one of the sessions that we had that were there. So cutting edge digital transformations. This is a session that was worth mentioning, I thought, specifically. Taking a minute to load. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened here. Come on, Google. Well, I might have to stop and restart. See if I can get this to pop up. Okay, give me just a second. Let me see if you guys can see this one, since my presentation mode is not working. I apologize for that. Not sure what happened there. Well, this isn't working either. What happened? Sorry, y'all. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you guys can see the screen now again. Apologize for those technical difficulties really quick. So they introduced the lightning flows. So there's several different lightning flows that are out there now that are available within the managed package that they have, which is the FSC for insurance. Life events and business milestones that came out last quarter, which is pretty cool. They've got the agent console that's out there, and then again the policy 360 that's bringing in various information from multiple systems and being able to put that for a single view of the customer. Goodness, I'm getting some bad bandwidth here. I apologize, guys. Wonder if I turn off my camera, maybe that'll help. See if that helps any. Okay, I think that actually helped. They have the independent insurance agent portal that, again, came out. It's modernizing your agent's experience. It's got pre-built agent portals with insights and policyholders, and some really cool templates that are out there that can just very easily be put into the community and put out there with very little additional customization that needs to be done. So I thought that was definitely worth noting. Gives that 360-degree view of your policyholder and has all the built-in analytics for your agency's production with sales performance dashboards. And again, this is using the underlying FSC for insurance data object model. They also came out with the Einstein Analytics for financial services. I don't know if you guys were on the call. Goodness, it must have been about a month before Dreamforce, but we got a preview of this from the analytics team. They came, so I'll make sure that you guys, if you have not seen it already, I'll make sure that you go get a post to that, which is on our page in the Trailblazer community. But he actually walked us through all the different analytics that you can have specifically for the insurance vertical, which was really neat. So how does this work in real life? Here's a real life scenario of people who have moved this. This was part of one of the keynotes that they did, and I was able to borrow a little bit of it from Salesforce. So I will definitely not do the entire session justice. I would love for you guys to go back and make sure that you read, because there was a recording of this particular session. But this kind of talks a little bit about the digital platform, all the different pieces that were in and around it, and this is the particular group that was working with this one with Haggerty. They actually extended everything in the ecosystem onto Salesforce. So their vision was, build the next generation of the insurance products to support all the growth of their particular items, and to ensure that ecosystem partners share the same insurance object model within Salesforce specifically. So they decided that they were going to move to the FSE data model for insurance. They transformed all their member base into person accounts. I think they originally had a contact, the original account contact model to begin with. And they implemented the information for sales for the FSE data model that was out there. And so now what their particular item looks like, they have their membership experience that's run on Salesforce and Sitecore both with their website and some of the portals and things that are going in and around there. They have their member experience up here from a shopping perspective, so you can buy things and you buy your different memberships, you buy your different, they actually sell products and things as well. They're very interesting. They don't just sell policies, but they actually sell the ability to drive old cars and things like that. We've got their omni-channel presence here. They're using their day-to-day interactions with Office 365. They've got Velocity and some of the other items in for their policy management, and they're using MuleSoft to kind of connect it all together. So that was a cool way to kind of see how people are actually using all the different clouds that are out there to bring it all into one thing. So again, I would definitely recommend you go and kind of check that one out. There was also another group that was in here with this particular one, that's Pacific Life. They didn't have as many slides to go over, so I would definitely encourage you to go look at that as well. Another item that we kind of talked about was building trust with particular clients. So, why insurance companies are choosing Salesforce: simplicity and security, greater speed, reducing costs, and faster innovation. So using the financial services cloud on one platform and being able to kind of automatically deploy all of that information out into one was pretty big. And so Generali was the people who talked about this one specifically, and all the different touch points and channels that they have here. And they actually went through and kind of showed what their CRM looks like with their customer knowledge, being able to have the needs for the particular customer that was brought out. They had different collaborations that were being done within their particular tool. So this was a really cool session that I would definitely encourage you going to check out as well. I know I blew through those pretty quickly, but I know that we're running out of time, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough time for group discussion at the end. So love to hear from you guys. What did you think about that was most interesting and exciting, both in the presentation today that you hadn't maybe thought of, or something that you kind of heard about, or and or what were your particular Dreamforce experiences? Was there anything that any sessions that you had that were really cool and worth mentioning? Was there anything that you thought was kind of lacking and you hope that you'd heard more about? I'd love to hear from you guys on kind of some information about what you find interesting or exciting and at Dreamforce and the announcements. Don't everyone go at once. Were there quite a few people who went to Dreamforce this year that's on? I'm kind of like looking through and determining if I even recognize some of your names here. Obviously, both of the mics were there.
So I did find Salesforce's answer to why Notes sucks so bad to be interesting, where they basically said, yeah, we got an add-on product called Quip. We're not fixing Notes. Pay us more money. That was an adorable answer. Yeah. If you haven't checked it out, watch the True to the Core, I think it was called. Watch that session. It's actually online. And they basically say, Notes, yeah, if it sucks today, get used to it. And same with Chatter. It doesn't sound like Chatter is going to be upgraded anytime soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any really cool things that they learned about at Dreamforce, or things that they were hoping to hear about that they didn't get to hear about?
This is Pommy, and I don't know if anybody mentioned this, sorry, because I came in late, but there was a session by Ascot Insurance and how they're using Velocity at the moment. And one of the things that they were showcasing was how they've kind of actually built in their own system to pull in information from like review sites like Yelp or other like Google reviews and things like that, and then tacking that in with Velocity and getting their quotes out faster or doing automatic approvals of quotes. And that was just really interesting to kind of see what Velocity is doing at the moment, and then seeing an insurance company kind of showcasing more intelligence on top of that to get to that automated quoting process, which I think is the goal for a lot of companies at the moment.
Awesome. And what was the name of that one again?
It was called Ascot Insurance. It's ASCOT.
Yeah.
And oh, perfect.
Cool. Well, one of my favorite things that I got to do when I was at Dreamforce was there was an insurance networking luncheon, and I actually got to meet quite a few of you face to face. So that was really cool, and I loved being able to chat with you guys on a more personal level and actually get to know you a little bit better. So. Awesome. Well, I think that I'm going to end on this one then. I appreciate everyone's time today. We have started going through next meetings. So we are going to have the engaging brokers and agents, again, trying to get through some of those particular solutions that are out there. And I have a couple of people who I'm hoping are willing to actually show the solutions that we had that we chatted about while I was at the Circle of Success. So make sure that you keep an eye out for that. Another thing that we heard loud and clear from some people was user adoption and how to drive user adoption. So we're going to be having some people come in to talk a little bit about user adoption, as well as that the spring 2020 release that we'll go through either in January or February, so that you guys can know what's going on with the new latest and greatest things that they're coming out with in the spring release as well. Well, if no one else has anything else to say, I appreciate you all of your time and effort so much. Thank you again for joining me today and all of the feedback. And have a very happy holiday, whichever holiday it is that you guys are celebrating, and a wonderful new year. And we will see you in January 2020. Thanks
Awesome.
so much,
Thank you
all.
so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.